The first time Fazza realized that time was not as solid as people believed, she was only 10 years old, standing barefoot on the cold marble floor of her grandmother's house. The clocks in every room had stopped at exactly the same second 7:17, and yet the world outside continued as if nothing had happened. Birds still flew, cars still moved, and people still spoke. Only inside that house did time hold its breath. Fazza didn't scream, didn't panic. She simply watched, her small fingers tracing the stillness in the air, as if she could feel time frozen between them. From that moment on, she carried a secret curiosity that no one else seemed to understand. While other children dreamed of toys and games, Fazza dreamed of seconds slipping through cracks, of minutes bending like light through water. She noticed things others ignored: the way shadows sometimes lagged behind their owners, the way echoes returned a little too late, the way her own reflection occasionally blinked before she did. Years passed, but Fazza never spoke of it. Not because she was afraid, but because she sensed something deeper: that time was watching her just as closely as she was watching it. At 17, everything changed. It was a quiet evening, wrapped in the golden silence of sunset. Fazza sat on the rooftop of her home, her eyes fixed on the horizon where the sky melted into shades of amber and violet. The world felt calm, almost too calm, like the pause before something irreversible. She closed her eyes for just a second, and when she opened them, the sky had darkened completely. Not gradually. Instantly. Her heart skipped. She stood up quickly, scanning her surroundings. The streets below were empty. No sound, no movement. Even the wind had vanished. It wasn't night, it was something else. Something untouched. Finally, a voice whispered. Fazza turned sharply. Behind her stood a man, dressed in black, his presence almost blending into the unnatural darkness. His eyes weren't threatening, but they carried an unsettling depth, as if they had seen centuries unfold. "Who are you?" Fazza asked, her voice steady despite the chaos inside her. "I am what you've been chasing your entire life," he replied. "Or perhaps, what has been chasing you?" She narrowed her eyes. "Time." A faint smile crossed his lips. "You're quicker than most." Fazza felt no fear, only a strange familiarity. "Why can I see this? Why can I feel it?" "Because," he said, stepping closer, "you don't belong entirely to it." Those words settled into her like a quiet storm. He explained what no one else could. "Time," he said, "was not a straight line. It was a web, fragile, complex, and constantly shifting. Most people lived on a single thread, unaware of the countless others crossing beneath their feet. But Fazza, she was different. She existed slightly outside the weave, just enough to see its flaws. You've already touched it," he continued. "Stopped it? Bent it? Not intentionally but instinctively." Fazza's mind raced. "Then why me? Because someone has to fix what's breaking. The man extended his hand, and for a moment, Fazza hesitated. Not out of fear, but because she understood that taking it would change everything. Her life, her reality, nothing would remain the same. Still, she reached out. The moment their hands touched, the world shattered, not violently, but softly, like glass dissolving into light. Images flooded her mind, moments from the past, fragments of the future, events that hadn't yet happened and memories that didn't belong to her. She saw herself older, standing in places she had never been. She saw people she hadn't met, speaking words she hadn't yet learned. And most terrifying of all, she saw time unraveling, threads snapping, moments collapsing into each other. When it ended, she fell to her knees, gasping for breath. "What was that?" she whispered. "The truth," he said calmly. "Time is breaking. And if it continues, everything will collapse, not just the future, but the past as well." Fazza clenched her fists. "Then fix it?" He studied her carefully. "That's why you exist." From that night onward, Fazza's life became something far beyond ordinary. She learned to step between seconds, to pause moments, to walk through memories like corridors. But with every ability came a cost. Each time she altered time, a piece of her own timeline weakened. She began to notice it slowly. Memories fading. Moments disappearing. Conversations she knew had happened but no one else remembered. At first, she thought it was part of the process. A necessary sacrifice. But then she realized something far worse. Time wasn't just breaking around her. It was consuming her. "You never told me this," she confronted the man one night. "I didn't want you to hesitate," he replied. "So I'm just a tool." Her voice sharpened. "No," he said quietly. "You're a solution." Fazza shook her head. "Solutions aren't supposed to disappear." For the first time, the man looked uncertain. That's when Fazza made a decision, one that would change everything. If time was breaking, and fixing it meant losing herself, then she wouldn't just fix it. She would outsmart it. Instead of repairing the timeline as instructed, Fazza began studying it differently. She looked for patterns, for weaknesses not in the breaks, but in time itself. She realized that time relied on order, on cause and effect, on the certainty that every action followed a single path. But what if it didn't? What if time could be tricked? She began creating loops, small at first. Repeating moments, altering tiny details, watching how time reacted. It resisted, of course. It always did. But slowly, she learned how to bypass its defenses. She wasn't just fixing time anymore. She was rewriting its rules. The man noticed. "You're going too far," he warned. "Or maybe not far enough," Fazza replied. "You're risking everything." She met his gaze, unshaken. "Everything is already at risk." Her final plan was as dangerous as it was brilliant. Instead of repairing the timeline piece by piece, she would create a paradox so complex that time itself would reset, forced to rebuild in order to survive. But to do that, she needed one thing, a moment that could not exist. She chose the night she first met the man. Standing once again on that rooftop, under the fading light of sunset, Fazza prepared herself. She knew what would happen. She had seen it countless times. But this time, she would change it. As the sky shifted unnaturally and the world fell silent, the man appeared behind her. Finally, he began. But Fazza turned before he could finish. "I know who you are," she said. His expression flickered just slightly. "That's not possible," he replied. "It is now." Before he could react, Fazza reached out not to him, but to the moment itself. She pulled it apart, unraveling the second like a thread, twisting it into something new. "You said I don't belong to time," she continued softly. "So maybe, time doesn't belong to me either." The world began to fracture. Not like before, this was different. Deeper. The fabric of reality stretched, warped, and then snapped. For a brief, infinite instant, everything ceased to exist. And then, it began again. Fazza opened her eyes. She was 10 years old again, standing on the marble floor of her grandmother's house. The clocks ticked normally. The air moved. Everything was as it should be. Except, she remembered everything. Every moment. Every choice. Every version of herself that had existed before. She looked at the clock. 7:16.1 second before it had ever stopped. A small smile formed on her lips. This time, she didn't wait. She reached out and gently pushed time forward. The clocks ticked. Nothing froze. Nothing broke. Somewhere, deep within the fabric of reality, the cracks had vanished, not repaired, but erased, as if they had never existed at all. Fazza exhaled slowly. She hadn't just fixed time. She had rewritten it so it could never break again. And in doing so, she had done the impossible. She had outsmarted time itself. But as she walked away, something lingered, a quiet, unspoken truth. Time had been watching her all along. And now, it remembered her too.